Hell yes. I'm live. Okay. Hell yeah. Hi. Uh, I will be there momentarily. Um, so see you in a bit. So I double check you can't actually hear me because that would be pretty embarrassing. You'd have to hear my ramblings. All right. And have some.
Hey guys, look at that stinky, stupid old man. I bet he doesn't even know what a hashtag is. Ha 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 ha! Ugh, how do you even use this thing? There's not even a home tap click screen game button. Go to war? Nah. The only lead going into my body is a new piercing. My grandma gave me a Werther's original, but it wasn't dyed hair pronoun candy, so I spat it in her face. I'm dumb and ignorant and not worthy of your respect, and all my hobbies are electronic. Date a girl? Ew! I'd rather watch Bernie Sanders on my next Station Nintendo game. Ugh. Leave me alone, Dad. I'm trying to dye my tattoo hair with a new piercing. Hey, God. So yes, you can hit the factory reset button. I simply holding that face like that. But
I'm seriously about to get kicked out. Okay, I have to make this really fast. So basically, me and my dad are like right now on a road trip to Ohio. A 6-hour car ride to Ohio. We're taking his car to Ohio, okay? Well, I took his car out yesterday. I may or may not have left something in his car. I will kick him. This is Jason.
good news. The person that sent you this is on their way. Prepare. Good. You know who really notices just how happy you are, guys? Other women. Not your woman. Other women. They can't help but notice how happy you are. They stare at you and they point. Look how happy he is. Oh, I bet I could change that. And if you've never been hunted before, it is one of the scariest things in the world. Because usually you don't know you're being hunted until it's too late. You're over there minding your business, you're in your relationship, you're trying to make it work. And here they come. Before you know it, it's too late. She's got a hold of you, and she has you pinned down in the backseat of a car. And she's hitting you. She's hitting you with a baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark. You will never look at that song the same way again. You're welcome. You know who really notices just how happy you are, guys? So I choose to allow my girlfriend to sleep with other men. That doesn't give you the right to call me a cuck. I've got a peer-reviewed study
sends you tweets or TikToks, it's because she is in touch with her ancient Paleolithic gathering instincts and is essentially gifting you the hard-earned berries of her daily labor. Appreciate them. Enjoy them. When your girl sends you tweets or TikToks, it's because she is in touch with her ancient Paleolithic gathering instincts.
So what you're saying is that I don't care about people because I won't inject something into me that I do not want to have in my body. So in order for me to care about people, I have to go against what I want for myself and inject myself with something I don't want in my fucking body. Are you crazy?
From this material, she can make plastic for packaging, food coloring, bottles.
That's amazing. Apologies. It's not bad. Right. Going live in however long. Hello, man. What is bit about it? Let's take it outside. Take it outside. Outside. See you later. Hey, take it outside. Outside. Good boy. Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey! Hi. I am here specifically to yell at this lovely individual. Um, like a year ago, Exci made a video on Chibnall's era of Doctor Who, covering the 2 seasons that were out at the time. I think it was pretty good. Not the show, the video. The show was bad, but the video itself has a couple like flaws here and there. So don't blame. The video is 5 hours. Uh, you're not going to have a 5 hour airtight video. It's just impossible. So, but I figured just as a point of either explanation or just simplicity, I think I might just go through this, um, reiterate points that he's made, or disagree with things that seem that there might be poor faith arguments, or there might be missing um, some facts, or there might be misinterpretations of the intention. Um, I obviously, for the record, I'm pretty sure JXE is fine by going by he. Last I checked on Twitter, pronouns was he, they, she. So I think they're fine with anything. So I'm just going to go by he for now. if I get told that that's incorrect, I will switch immediately. If I don't know for certain, but I'm just going off of the information that I do have. But yeah, this video is 5 hours, so get ready for a likely a 10-hour stream uh, of this ugly face. All right, so we're just gonna start this. He begins with some just preamble that I probably am not gonna touch on. Um, Normally, or not normally, but I would skip past parts. However, there's only one part in this that I do actually know that I can afford to skip because either it's not important for the video or there's nothing in there that I like disagree with. So I'm just gonna be skipping that one part unless there's and maybe the exit. But we will see. So let's get started. If it wants to. For clarity, when he says two most recent seasons, these were the first two Chibnall seasons, because this was back before Flux or Power of the Doctor and all that nonsense. Yeah, no, that was pretty bad. That was not the greatest moment in Doctor Who history. Also, I'm gonna see if I can't get the stream or the video to be any higher quality. So, well, higher frame rate. So I am going to lower the quality, just because I guess my internet's not up to stream. It says excellent connection, but like, all right, it's going to be pretty relevant that it wasn't cancelled because it was bad or because it was like the Doctor was badly written or anything that he specifically criticizes in this. So any like dumbasses trying to argue that that oh well no the show can't be that bad because this other person's run got it taken off the air for like 40 years or whatever it was, and no, that's not true. It was the I think he plays an interview in it later where they say like it had to do with just the poor production quality, and that was basically it. It was just the poor production quality. The dude who cancelled it felt like bad for the show, so he canned it. Just fucking stupid. I mean, yeah, no, that is a good point that he makes. What I don't understand why anyone would enjoy this era, just like as a whole. Like there are good episodes in it, like Tesla's Night of Terror, and uh, the end of Power of the Doctor was cool, I guess. The what's it called? The not Ryan Grove Colors, that's a shit one. It's the first one that Onion that like the dude who pops out of the onion is in. Teeth Man, Tim Shaw. Um, and there was one other one. Rosa was but the it's the one with Mary Shelley in it isn't bad. I don't remember if it covers any of that. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this intro, just so because I don't want to spend 10 hours streaming, and I'm not gonna have any sort of like actual thing to add here, so there's no point in me playing it, because it doesn't provide context. It looks visually appealing, so I recommend go watch the video. You can find video and Jay's channel down in the description as I put there, but I recommend just like if you want to see his points uninterrupted by me, watch this. I think that's the pretty obvious course of action because I am going to be pausing it quite often. I think that's Chris Chibnall. I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure that's Chris Chibnall. I haven't heard him speak, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, spoilers. I mean, it came out. The show came out 2 years ago. I am going to quickly just pull up the flashing lights warning that he has. There are fast flashing lights at a huge number of places in this video. It's actually surprising just how much Doctor Who has fast flashing lights. I intend to make an accessible version of this video with flashing lights removed and replaced with still images. When it's ready, it will be linked here. I guess he never did that, but that is fine. This video contains full spoilers. Yep. It contains major spoilers for Series 1, Series 3 as well as spoilers for other areas. It's standard. I mean, he's covering like a whole 2 seasons of a show. Do you really expect him not to put spoilers in the fucking thing? This is him talking about him growing up on Doctor Who. So I am going to skip over it because there's nothing factually incorrect here. There's nothing I can point out, and I don't want to just play his video in full because that would, as well as being copyright infringement, would just be piss. So I'm going to go up to where I think it actually starts. Okay. Okay. This yeah. I keep forgetting about that bit. It, yeah. I take severe offense to that because that is what I'm going to spend the next 8 hours doing. So I, I'm letting this play because he explains what he's doing here. I'm not going to interrupt it very much. That's the only reason. Not because I just want to fill. Yeah, there's some pretty important context. I'm hoping that my audio is working, by the way. I'm assuming that it is, but my thing isn't showing me. Oh, hold on. So my mic there works. If I go into standard, okay, it's back. Okay, this isn't an argument he makes in the thing, but I gotta disagree with something, or else I'm just gonna spend the next hour just watching his video. But the whole point of what he's going over um, is he makes the criticism that the whole 13 lives things is complicated. Um, he then also says this is the 13th Doctor, which is just incorrect. That's not what she is. I don't remember what number she is. I think it was like 15 or 16, because Capaldi was 14. Um, so yes, just make a Doctor number 15 as opposed to 13. Um, she's, I think, the 14th Doctor to. Oh, because even the War Doctor appeared before her. So she is the 15th Doctor to appear chronologically, and then later in the season we find out that she's had like 50 other lives before that that she doesn't remember, or some shit like that, which I don't think. I don't think that. I hate the way I hate the Thomas Children. It's bad. It's not done well. It's uh, it's just everything about it is piss poor, and it just throws the whole numbering system off as just a small thing. Um, but that's my own criticism here. 15, which she is. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. I'm gonna skip this part. I feel like I've heard that. Um, okay, this is the first one I have. I'm just gonna like finish this sentence. Oh, he says he finishes the sentence was okay. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that she just exploded. Um, I think this is a severe misinterpretation of the scene. He's basically what he's saying here is, oh, Jodie presses a button that causes the explosion. Like, oh, this is the self-destruct TARDIS button, but no, it's quite obvious that she's just inputted the wrong sequence because she's disoriented. Like, like she's obviously in the middle of flying the TARDIS as we see there, and then she's pressed a button that you wouldn't press normally then, and it's just done something to the TARDIS and fucking blown up the set, which was a shame. But it's not a crash the TARDIS button. This is I get this is a minor criticism, but I gotta pull them where I can. Yeah, it's still really stupid. This is nothing to do with the video. I just want to point out I fucking hate Ryan. He's annoying as shit. I mean, he's more bearable than like what's her name, like Yaz or whatever it is. But still, the whole everything except everyone except Graham here wasn't a good pick for not necessarily the actors, but wasn't a good pick as to just have in the show. They could have made good characters. Well, no, they could. It's Chris Chibnall. He's not capable of making good characters. But I mean, come on, man. Why did they? It's just such a letdown because they could have been good. They had potential. But why? He doesn't come back to this. I'm not sure if that's because he forgot about it, which, to be fair, I did too for a while until I, rewatched this to come up with some sort of idea of what the hell I was going to do. But th I think it is within character because Ryan, as Jay later describes in the video, um, Ryan basically has three separate characters that conflict, even though, well, that's what he says. So I'm going to go by his logic for this one. I disagree. I think they fit relatively well together. They could have done a bit of a better job, smushing it together a bit better, but they definitely don't inherently contrast one another. But I reckon, personally, he implies that it doesn't. Of course, he might not be, and I'm just getting the wrong interpretation, but he implies that the YouTube channel starting in the end doesn't really make sense because it doesn't have any character to latch onto. I would argue that in today's era of time, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Like right about today, pretty much everybody under the age of 25 has a YouTube channel that they've put something on. Like, I mean, and it's not unreasonable to assume that he has one that doesn't even necessarily require character motivation. It's just not. It could literally just be something as simple as just he needed somewhere to vent, so he decided to do that on a YouTube channel. Um, it's, yeah, he wasn't done well. He was given so many scenes of characterization, but then they weren't incorporated into each other or into the actual episode. They were just like, hey, characters. I'll let you guys guess how they work. It wasn't good at all. I would argue in a show, the tiniest little action part. I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily required for a show to function. It's definitely required for a show to be really good, as the rest of Doctor Who has been. Um, but the whole I don't think because the show's not competent. So I think what we should be criticizing it to is to get it to a level of competence as opposed to getting it to, you know, a level of really, really, really good. Um, so I think we should just be focusing on the big actions, which he doesn't do in character. It's just stupidity. But I mean, I guess that could be a character, but I don't. Well, stupidity of the writers, rather. I don't think the him having to do small things that fit within character is as big of an issue in this specific circumstance as Jay points it out to be. Um, I do think it should be in shows where possible, but I don't think shows should bend over backwards to deliver that. Should break their own plots to deliver that, um, unless it's the only thing separating it from being, a, a decent, an okay show to an actual proper good piece of content. Yeah, this was a massive complaint of mine too. I, I, I'll let him finish talking. Yeah, I wouldn't call Grace a main character, like he says. Like three of our main characters, I would say Grace is a main character maybe of this episode, so that could have been what he was talking about. But the implication is that he's talking about main characters for the show, which Grace isn't. She's just a corpse. um, that's basically all she is in the show. She's in 2 episodes and mentioned in like 5 total, including the 2 that she's actually in. Um, but I think it's a stretch to say she's a main character. So I like this line of dialogue. It's good. I think it works naturally. It it's exactly what his like if he was a real person, it's exactly what he would actually say. Things make sense. Um, I don't think his complaint there is like when he summarizes, "No, I will not call him granddad," um, isn't really a fair interpretation because there's a lot of nuance to the actual thing. Um, that, like um, the fact that Ryan is, as we learn later, he doesn't actually really want to do this, so he's prioritizing correcting Grace over actually, doing the thing that he's been asked to do, which is to ride a bike. Um, so I think it's a pretty natural line of dialogue that sets up a lot of things. I don't think it's what do you, how do you describe it? Is explicit. I don't think it's as explicit as Jay is painting it to be. I think it's because the things we're learning from it aren't, it's like, oh, because we're not learning that, like, aside from we're learning the fact that this guy's name is Graham, it's not explicit. It's all implied. Like, you could technically interpret this scene if you were really stupid as this is just some random guy that Grace likes to call granddad, with no relation to Ryan, and Ryan is confused by this. If you can pull a separate interpretation from this scene, and I wouldn't say it's explicit. It's not subtle, but it's not explicit either. I'm just rambling. He also says there's enough dialogue in the rest of the episode to pick stuff up. But then one of his complaints later on is that it's like, oh, this line of dialogue shouldn't have been here. So um, if if you complain about every line of dialogue and say it shouldn't have been there, then there's not going to be any lines of dialogue to do the characters with. It's just there's not going to be anything. He does this a bit during the video where he complains about one thing through multiple examples, saying like, oh, this shouldn't be here, because all the other ones are there. And then he says that for all of them, which if we take all of his fixes, and suddenly there's no more dialogue relating to that thing, which he then has complaints about similar things, was like, oh, well, this wasn't set up beforehand, which, is all fair, but he does make a lot of arguments like that from memory. Unless I'm just remembering it wrong, but I'm pretty sure he does make that. So I'm only going to cover it like once more. There's always room for improvement. The implication of what appears to be implies, because Ryan does have a character. This is something that I personally disagree with a lot of people on. Ryan does have a character. It's just rarely there. Like, he does actually have traits and drives and motives, but they forgot to actually put that into the story. They forgot to actually apply it to all the things. Like, it's like, oh, these are all his character traits. Watch them not affect anything. So I don't think it's fair to say that he doesn't have a character, which is what he later explicitly says is what he meant by that. I don't think it's fair to say that he doesn't have a character. I think the more accurate criticism is to say this, like, oh, his character isn't ever used in anything. Like, it's there for the scenes, the dude is there, but there's no character in the thing because they just forgot to include it in the actual story. It's just exposited to us and then never comes into play at all. It's like a terrible ass. Chekhov's gun. Which, I mean, no, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know why he touched him. I don't know why his. I have no clue why his instinct was to touch the shapes. I mean, I guess it's supposed to characterize him. Or it's just because it's what Chibnall wants to happen for the plot, which seems to be the driving force of most of these characters' actions. Um, so I think based on how Chibnall treats characters in relation to the plot as devices as rather than characters, I think when analyzing and looking for Ryan's character in this, we have to ignore things that drive the plot forward unless they're specifically tied to character and they specify that it's tied to character. Um, just because Chris Chibnall doesn't seem to realize that characters stay there the entire show. They don't just go away for bits where they're inconvenient. That's not how it works. So I think to properly characterize all of these people, we need to look at things that don't drive the plot forward, with the exception of maybe the Doctor, who's just characterized poorly in general. Um, hot, yeah. So that's how characterization would normally work. Chris Chibnall's is actually proper stupid. So I don't think we're allowed to. I don't think we should be doing that in relation to this, because if we do, then we get messy characters that don't make any sense. But if we just take the parts that are explicit characterization, then we get slightly less messy characters that still don't make sense. It's bad. The show is bad for these like 3 seasons, but Chris. Oh, yeah, no, that's a pretty rational guess. Yeah. This is an example of good characterization in Doctor Who. Chibnall, considering Chibnall's entire thing seems to be copying other series, I don't know why he didn't pick up on all the good things. Like he just took the superficial and that and just assumed that the show would be good. It's not good. So I think this is one of those moments where it's just done to drive the plot forward, and so we should try not to infer a character from it. Yeah, everything he's saying is how it should work and not how Chris has done it. So I don't think Chris wrote characters; he just forgot to do it well. Um, so a lot of because it's weird. It depends on how you interpret what he's saying and what he says throughout the videos. As if you interpret literally as, oh, they don't have any characterization or any meaningful characterization just at all, like as a standard thing, or if you interpret it as like, um, oh, what should be characterization isn't characterization, so the characters are weaker for it. It depends on how you interpret what he's saying there. So I'm just going to go with the literal interpretation because it A makes my job easier and B is the most rational way to interpret something if you're not sure is to just go by what they're quite literally just saying. This is what the characterization would be, Chris. If it was done well, your character's actions would happen as a result of the fucking characters. See, this is why it's difficult to make that inference because that's basically exactly what I said. But then he also goes on to say later that these these characters don't have any character in them, which I think is different to what he's arguing here. I think these two things are different. You can have a character in a show and then just that character just isn't affected at all for some reason by the it's point is it's bad no matter what. The show is bad, however the ways in which it's bad I think Jay may have gotten wrong here. Yes, that is what this thing does. That is exact. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't think it's here to characterize her as someone who dreams of bigger things. I think the characterization is extremely explicit here, but I don't think it's the thing that he's saying it is. The characterization is that she wants to do more, which is arguably worse. I mean, you could make the argument that what Chris is trying to say is like, oh, she wants to help people, and then this scene is here to show her that she doesn't think she has the ability to help people from where she is currently. Instead of as opposed to what Jay says, which is she's dreaming of bigger things. I think that's what we're supposed to take away from that. Either that, or she just wants to do more. Knowing Chris, I wouldn't be surprised at either of those. And they're both not amazing, but neither of them are dreams of bigger things. And that's what he bases this whole next like 4 or 5 minutes on. So if he doesn't say anything else factually incorrect, I might just skip it. No, she doesn't. She doesn't explicitly say that. She says she wants to do more. She says that she wants uh, to have help people better. Basically, is what she's saying. What the fuck is that? She wants to help people better. That's what she's explicitly saying. Not that she dreams of bigger things. Or else she would say, or else she wouldn't be. She says like, when am I going to get promoted? Instead, she's asking, am I able to help people better? That's what she's saying. I swear to God, this video spent more time loading than it has playing. I mean, you could technically eat it, but it's not going to nourish you. Oh, I guess that's his point. Yeah, I don't know why this wasn't in the thing. I haven't actually seen this movie. Apparently, it's really good, but I don't know. I'm going to skip this part here, but I'm just going to summarize what he's saying. So, Drummer Man from Fan Stick um, is just basically stating his character motivations or doing what it seems like that. But that's not what we're learning. We already know the character motivations from before this scene. What we're learning here is that he's a shitbag who treats people he loves horribly. That's the point of the scene. So while the motivations may be stated explicitly, the reasons behind them are implied. And I think that's what is happening with Yaz in that scene that he's just played. But he also uses as an example to try and discredit um, what Yaz has said, saying that it's possible, but he didn't do it here. And I personally disagree with that. I haven't heard Chris talk about this specific line of dialogue for obvious reasons, but I imagine that's what Chris is trying to accomplish. So I'm just going to skip this part because it's mostly just the same thing, but again. Yeah. I mean, I don't think she knows who called the police. So it could have been just somebody else called the police about this, and then she's seen that and seen Ryan there. I also, it's a weird It's just a weird scene. And I mean, it could characterize her as someone who leads to bizarre conclusions or something. This is one of the scenes where she's seemingly deliberately characterized, and it doesn't impact the plot in any way, but it's also just bad. I wonder if there are any other bad scenes in Chibnall Who I wonder if the series as a whole might not be good. Shocker. That's what I just said. The first half of that section of dialogue is actually pretty good. Is he ever going to call me granddad? That's Graham just becoming impatient. And the last line in this is absolute garbage. I don't understand that. And you've never been happier. Like, what the fuck was that there for? Was that there just because Chibnall couldn't think of a response? Graham's 3 years we've been married. I don't actually mind personally. It's a bit on the nose, but it is still saying it's basically like he's known me for 3 years. I've been his granddad for 3 years, and he still won't call me granddad. Which, you know, like it's just showing his impatience. It's fine. It's fine. Oh, this episode is just fine. It's got a lot of bad in it, but it's got some okay in it too. So it's acceptable as an episode of television, and I don't think it deserves to be anything higher than that. This argument just applies to that last line of dialogue. It doesn't actually apply to the rest of it. I don't know if he's trying to apply it to the whole scene, but assuming since he played the whole scene, I would, and the first two lines aren't relevant to this, I would assume that he's applying it to the whole scene, as opposed because he's saying that the characterization that we're getting from here is 3 years we've been married and you've never been happier, whereas the first two lines didn't have anything to do with marriage at all. So I don't think it's fair to extend this to that. And then I think the third line of dialogue, the 3 years we've been married, um, sets up what she says next, which is fucking cringe, but also serves its own purpose, which is to demonstrate Graham's patience while also expositing information that never becomes relevant. That them being married for 3 years. I Yeah, this is a weird show. This is just a really weird show. I have no complaints here. It's just a strange show. Yeah. This is from here on out, he starts actually mentioning plot contrivance as a regular occurrence, which it is. It happens a lot, but then a lot of the examples he points out, I would argue, aren't contrivances or aren't as big a contrivance as he makes it seem. I would argue, for the most part, that they are just relatively standard things to happen in a plot. I will be right back. I'm not gonna play this unattended because I'm not some like actual dickweed. So I'll see you in a little bit. All right, let us continue. It doesn't. Yeah, this is the he counters his own point um with this. I'll just let it play and then I'll yeah, see that would be my counter to that is that the TARDIS like chucked him off somewhere because it has some sort of supreme intelligence. Um which he then clarifies with this line. It's like you didn't always take me where I wanted to go, but I always took you where you needed to go. Um because we see the TARDIS moves and then shakes out the Doctor and then teleports away. Um, the implication, I think, for supposed to get that is the TARDIS sort of like, oh well, shit. If you're gonna fall out, go help these people having an alien encounter, and then come find me. That's basically what, which is stupid, but better than just some random contrivance. But then he just says, "Oh, I think that's worse," and doesn't explain why. So it's kind of hard to argue against somebody who argue against something when you don't have any arguments to counter because they haven't made any arguments as to why it's worse. He just says, "Oh, I think it's worse." Exactly. Yeah. See, like he even shows the actual thing. It's specifically trying to shake Jodie out so that way she does, end up where she ends up. But I do think it's also incredibly weird that the TARDIS knew. It's bad. It's bad either way, but it's slightly better. He says it's worse, but I think it's better. He could just not like the TARDIS having autonomy or something, but yeah, the Doctor is probably the only character in this era of the show that actually like does things according to her character. Like her actions actually fit into the character. It's a shit character, but they fit in at the very least, which is nice. It's better than any of the other characters, but still, it's um. Can you guys hear this? Did you hear the audio here? Hold on. Audio input. Cancel. Desktop audio. Source browser. Alright, let's try this.
Point, the fact that she's even doing a quip lets us learn about who she is and how she regards situations like this one. And
So apparently you couldn't hear the video this entire time. At 22 minutes in, I'm not starting over again. Because this is where the stupid comes in, because it's either I start over again because you probably weren't able to hear the video. You should still be able to hear me. I'm hoping that I did a good enough job summarizing it and with the visuals. But yeah, this is with audio now. I'm so sorry.
anyway, the buzzy little ball of tentacles did a little scan of this boy here, and Ryan and Yaz arrive on the scene to see it zip away into the night sky, but not before it takes a chance to give them all a little zap for their trouble. Man, it only took Ryan and Yaz 100 seconds to get here. That's incredible.
The clear implication there is that more time has passed than what they show, and that they weren't super far away, which is actually not, because they would be pretty far away, wouldn't they? Because they've taken a train. I mean, it's a cop car. It's a cop car. I'm pretty sure they took a car in the thing, and cops are allowed to go incredibly fast. However, I think what Chris is trying to imply is that more time than 100 seconds has actually passed. However, it's still probably not enough time because it's a train versus a car. I think the train's going to go faster. It's stopped for, if Jay's right, for 100 seconds, but it's stopped for, at best half an hour. At best. So you're saying it took half an hour to, because it was daytime. It was daytime when Yaz first got there and when the call first happened. Like, it was basically just at the end of daytime. Which means when they got on the train, because they would have gotten on the train around the same time that Ryan went down to collect the bike. So they've been on that train for like at least an hour. So in the time it takes for a train to travel an hour, a car was able to go in 30 minutes. I don't think it could be the case, but I'm pretty sure that's not how shit works. So it's still stupid, but the implication is different to
consistent in this scene, and she attempts to take charge of the situation.
Madam, I need you to do as I say. This could be a crime. Why call me madam? Can you stop? Please, this could be a major incident. I'm the one in charge here.
We're now forming a clear picture of how Yaz is capable of acting in a crisis, which is great because in a crisis is where she's going to be spending loads of her time over the course of this series. Maybe in the future she's going to act.
For some reason, she remains in character here, but then in the other crises, she just forgets that she has a character, which is, insane.
To sort of crowd control, using this character trait in her specialist skill set to calm down panicking people, letting the Doctor focus on whatever the task at hand might be at the time, and letting Ryan and Graham focus on whatever unique skill I'm sure they're going to end up bringing to the table. What we need to be on the lookout for now is this characterization being reinforced and expanded upon. And it's stuff like this that's the reason we're going through these first 2 episodes completely chronologically. Keep a close eye on Yaz the next few times she ends up in a crisis situation. She doesn't need to behave in the exact same way, but she does need to behave in a way that's either consistent with or expands upon her existing characterization. Anyway, remember when the plot called for Chris to get involved, Ryan called them despite...
Yeah, exactly. That is how characterization should work. It's not how Chris does characterization, so I don't think it's fair to apply this template to something that he's not using and then say, oh, there's no characterization. There's no good characterization and the characters are bad and they're not done well, but there are still characters there. They're not, completely characterless for the most part.
By that not being something that's motivated by any aspect of his actual character, well, now the plot needs the police to not be involved anymore. Yaz is here, and that...
Yeah, no, this whole element here is stupid. It's really bad. Point is, what happens is, Doctor says, "Hey, don't report this train that crashed and people died because I asked you to." And then Yaz goes, "Yep, sure, I'll do that." It's really fucking stupid. So I'm just gonna skip over it because everything he says here I agree with. I'm not sure if he says it here, but then she also goes down to the police station as well and asks if anybody's seen anything weird. So why would they not? If she report I don't know what Chris was thinking because if she reports it 3 days after it happened, her ass is on the line. Why would she agree to this? It's stupid. I'm gonna go as far forward as I think I can.
been stolen. Wonder if Yaz will blame Ryan for this as well. Upon
The onion was stolen.
discovering that the onion is missing, the crew decides they need to track it down. This is when Yaz goes back to the police station to ask if anyone has seen a giant onion.
Just wondering whether there's been anything else out the ordinary tonight.
During this ordeal, the Doctor passes out, presumably from post-regenerative stress. Or, maybe the fall she did is finally catching up with her. She later wakes up having been taken to Grace's house, where we get this scene.
Show me your collarbones.
This whole thing is garbage because it's exactly Chris's problem. He doesn't characterize people during the actual story, just before and after, and maybe little breaks in between. But when the actual plot is happening, everyone except for the Doctor doesn't have a character. Sorry, but even then, the Doctor's character is garbage and barely integrated. So I'm just going to skip over this one.
Generally needs more protection than some other characters do, and that.
He goes on to say that the call characterizes him as someone who needs a lot of protection. I don't think the call was intended to characterize him, so I don't think we should try to extend meaning to it. It says yes should be authoritative. Yeah, I think I'm just going to skip over this entire scene because beyond just plot, it doesn't have anything relevant to what I'm saying. Everything he says here I completely agree with. You could make an argument that the reason they're being required is supposed to be stunned silence, but Chris forgot to write specifically that it was stunned silence, and whoever was watching this episode didn't think that maybe they should act stunned in any way. I think to give Chris the benefit of the doubt, which he really hasn't earned, but it is my job to do. I think maybe he's supposed to have they're supposed to be in a shock silence, but he forgot to actually tell them to be in a shock silence, or he thought that they forgot that they have to actually act to, you know, be actors.
Thing in the scene they find out they might die. Anyway, so the onion hatches. Fuck it, sure, why not? And
Yeah.
this scary boy pops out and murders the guy who stole the onion. That's what you get for onion theft. Anyway, the doctor uses Ryan's reformatted phone to...
Where are we driving to?
I reckon she's using my phone to track the origin signal for the DNA bombs.
Yeah, that.
Can't we just defuse them?
Not without the right equipment.
Hang on, you're arriving at your destination now? You haven't, like, just set off? Man, if I was in life or death danger, I would probably have asked where I was going before this point.
Okay, so the clear implication with this one is that it's asked during the journey, and then they just... So they ask the questions, and then they cut to arriving. It could have been done a lot better, but I do think that is supposed to be what the clear implication is. There is also another inference you could make that is... they're asking questions the whole time, and then these happen to be the last two questions that they asked. But both those things could have been demonstrated a lot better. I also think that it is entirely plausible that Chris just forgot that these people are supposed to be scared, so he just had them calmly ask questions as they arrive. He then gets a gag about a CinemaSins ding, because it's non-substantial and piss. But then he goes on to explain like why he thinks it matters a lot, because on its own it's not big, but it's not on its own. It's symptomatic of the larger thing. So I'm just skipping over it.
For the DNA bombs, and here they find the guy that hatched out of Big Onion. They lose him, but instead are happy to find the site at which he hatched. Here they find the corpse of the guy he killed.
Looks like it took one of his teeth.
They never actually show it, which is a great way of implying a lot more gore than you'd get away with showing on a family show. See, that actually is pretty insubstantial. Still neat though. After examining the body, the doctor starts to wonder why all of this is happening here and now.
Why here? Why tonight?
Actually, that might have been me.
Why?
I went to get me bag. There was this line in the air. There were shapes. I touched one.
Ryan, I've told you about touching.
No, the whole thing there is, Ryan, why are you touching these weird, like, what? When you see weird shapes, why was your instinct to touch them? Not to call someone else, not to, like, run away. Instinct when seeing these flying, like, fucking glowy bits was to reach out and touch one. Why? That's what she's complaining about. It's an insubstantial line, and then Graham has one that really, really overvamps it.
Mysterious glowing shapes. Why is this a thing that she says?
Because she's pissed.
Distracts you as well. Can't ride a bike, can't an alien invasion.
Whoa, okay.
It's not your fault, all this.
Yeah, it basically is.
Couldn't have known that was gonna happen.
Maybe tell Graham that.
Here we get some absolutely wild and pretty heavy characterization, showing Ryan more as an emotional victim of Graham and Grace. He found a mysterious glowing shape in the woods. He touched it.
Another thing that I don't want to rule out as a possibility for Chibnall's characterization, because just having watched that scene, and then also some of the other decisions, it's entirely possible that Chris Chibnall is deliberately characterizing these characters. However, he doesn't seem to understand that characters have to remain consistent, or that you have to characterize them the same way. Because as of current, all he's done is gone like, hey, all he's done is fucking like, hey, here are all these scenes of characterization. You told me to include scenes of characterization. Didn't say what the scenes had to be for the same character. That's also another possibility, which is like, oh, well, this characterizes him as this. This characterizes him as this. I thought, oh, is he? Which one is he? He's like, no, he's just whichever one. It's possible that Chris has been deliberately characterizing them, even through actions and things like that, but forgot to actually make the characters consistent. It's possible.
That unleashed a giant onion, and the giant onion unleashed a guy that's going around killing people.
This is the one thing we didn't want to happen.
I feel fairly safe in saying there was no way he could have known that's what was going to happen. I mean, it's...
Yeah, that doesn't make it rational to touch the glowing object. If you see some weird thing buzzing around the woods, why is your first instinct to go? And if it is, Chris should have explained that beforehand, because I firmly believe that all things should be like. Jay has another. I'm not sure if it's in this one or if it's Star Wars one, which I also wanted to cover sometime. But he has a thing where it's sort of like, oh, this thing is this character trait isn't established, but he's pointing at the scene where they're establishing the character trait for the first time. So it's like, oh, but why haven't they mentioned this before now? And it's like, well, this is the first time that they've been able to mention it. This is like the scene of them introducing to us. I don't think that excuse works when it's actually plot relevant, which is what this is. I think he should have been set up as somebody who's intensely curious about weird glowy shapes or whatever the fuck character trait would require for him to press it, before it actually became plot relevant. That's my firm belief, is that you should always set up things before they affect the plot. In most circumstances. There are obvious exceptions.
It starts to get bad when Gray starts acting like Ryan should clearly have known better, but Graham
No, it doesn't.
shouting at Ryan about his disability
Yeah,
is both brutal and absolutely places him in the wrong. I suppose you'll be blaming this on the dyspraxia as well. Can't ride a bike, started an alien invasion. I mean, of course, it goes without saying, him not being able to ride a bike absolutely is a result of his dyspraxia. So this paints a picture of Graham as a shitty guy who's blaming Ryan for everything because he doesn't understand his problems. And then Ryan being so quick to accept this pretty much paints a picture of someone who's used to this kind of treatment. Are we starting to see the evidence of what's actually an emotionally abusive relationship in which the blame always gets shifted on Ryan unfairly? Or maybe it means something else for their characters. This could be quite strong characterization if it's ever reinforced as a pattern at any point in the future.
Yeah.
It could lead to a challenging, emotionally pertinent arc for these characters. Again, just like Ryan's YouTube channel, we should one day be able to look back and understand all the motivations and character traits that were at play here.
Maybe tell Graham that.
He knows, really.
Yes, trust me, as someone who met him 30 minutes ago, I can really tell that when he blames you for everything and tells you angrily that everything caused by your disability is actually just your fault, he actually deep down knows that all of that isn't true. Anyway, Yaz and Ryan find a computer on it with a file called If I Die, Click Here. You forgot to turn off resampling. And in the meantime, the Doctor is talking to Grace and Graham as she builds herself a new sonic screwdriver, and her
I'm incredibly sorry about the really laggy video. I'm doing this on a laptop. It's not good.
generation is a topic that she brings up.
There's echoes of who I was and a sort of call towards who I am. And I have to hold my nerve and trust all these new instincts.
Okay, here he just says this is decent characterization. Nothing to disagree with here, something I skip over it. Oh, and this is the part where he first complains about Jodie's nervous acting, which I also don't like. Doesn't fit within the established character of Doctor Who, and it's just weird to see it here.
Learn what was on the Click This If I Die file.
It's come back. I think I saw it the night my sister. Everyone always says disappeared, but 7 years now. Tracking energy signals, predictive programs, so that I know when the atmospheric disruptions match what happened that day.
Okay, so it seems like he's a guy whose sister has been taken.
His complaint around this scene is incredibly flawed, for one reason that will explain once he finishes delivering his argument.
By these same aliens. At first I was worried this wouldn't make any sense. How would this just random guy have known that an onion just materialized somewhere in the woods? I wouldn't know that. Yeah, this steak is delicious. I have to go. I certainly wouldn't have been able to track it down to its exact location, but then they actually went ahead and justified it by saying that he'd been tracking energy signals and atmospheric disruptions. Hang on, what the fuck? He's just some random guy whose sister got kidnapped. He can do all this? Apparently he can. Wow, how contrived that this guy whose sister went missing just so happened to have the exact skill set he needed to track alien onions. That's a lot of specialist knowledge, planning, and preparation to gulp at an alien as it kills you.
this is a really stupid argument of his, because the argument he makes is, oh, it's incredibly contrived that the guy who lost his sister also happened to be a guy who has all this technology. But we also learn in the episode that these guys have been doing this thing for ages. They've been kidnapping people. The Zenshaw, or the Stenza, that's their name. The Stenza have been kidnapping people for ages. Statistically speaking, a lot of people's siblings or people they know would have been taken. Like, that's just basic math. A lot of siblings, a lot of parents, a lot of children would have gone missing. Is it really unreasonable to assume that just one of those people had access to this sort of technology? And then we also find out that he's in that clip who did 7 years specialist knowledge and training. Yeah, he's had 7 years to hone his technology. They've presumably come in between then repeatedly. So I think it's pretty rational to assume that he's had attempts at taking the onions before, but hasn't succeeded, and he's had more time to perfect things that have shown up. He's had 7 years to do this, and it happens all the time apparently. So it's not contrived.
Now, the only real impact that any of this has on the actual story is that he took the Onion to a place that stocks all the resources that the Doctor could possibly need to build herself a new sonic screwdriver. A sonic screwdriver being a form of multi-tool that the character is famous for using.
He also repeatedly throughout this thing says takes to a place where it has all the pieces she needs. I think the interpretation of the scene isn't that. I think the interpretation is it doesn't have. It just has. It has pieces there, and the Doctor's so incredibly clever that she's able to figure out what pieces she needs just from what she has lying around. Which isn't. It's an odd thing because. Oh shit! Hold on. I don't think it's still a weird plot point. But the interpretation I think is pretty clearly supposed to be the Doctor. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm pretty sure the interpretation is supposed to be that the Doctor's able to craft a Sonic out of bits lying around because she's clever enough to figure it out, as opposed to, oh, this guy just happens to have all the pieces that Sonic screwdrivers use, because that would be contrived. And we all know that Chris Chibnall doesn't do contrivances. It's a weird plot point, but I think it makes more sense than he gives it credit for.
Think Batman's utility belt, except it's used for scanning stuff and fiddling with technology.
Neat, isn't it? All done by sound waves.
Of everyone who could have lost a sister, we just so happened to get one who not only was able to track the Onion, but then
He says of everyone who have lost a sister as if only one person lost a sister, which isn't the case. More than one person would have lost a sister or a sibling or a parent, would have lost someone that they care about enough to have tracked this person down. Like, just based in math and statistics, he's almost certainly not the only one who's lost a sister. But he says things like he is.
A place that was full of some very specific equipment. Exactly the specific equipment that the Doctor needs right now. What luck! It is a bit unfortunate how much of this story has been driven by contrivance so far. After finishing her Sonic and using it to analyze the Onion fragments, the Doctor reaches her first theory about what she thinks might be going on here.
2 aliens, 1 city, 1 night. Best guess? 2 species at war, using Earth as a battleground.
Like with the DNA bombs, how characters react in this moment should be huge for their characterization. Whether their immediate reaction is stress, panic, disbelief, or to comfort other people who are hearing the same world-shattering news, if they have discernible character traits, they will have a strong reaction in the...
Are you joking? This is my home, and I'm not having it being an alien battleground.
I think that the news my home might become an alien battleground is bad.
You're saying
Yeah,
creature
this
on a
is.
train and the thing that come out of here, they're now looking for each other.
Are you very bad, edgy? You may not remember this, because I haven't mentioned it yet, but earlier in the episode, Graham went to ask his bus driver buddies if they'd seen anything out of the ordinary, much like Yaz did in the police station.
Any talk of weird stuff or strange creatures out tonight?
Well, Graham receives a call.
Hello? Yeah, Kevin. No, mate, that's exactly the sort of thing.
So the doctor takes his contraption she's just finished building and her newly found planks of wood out to a location where they find the writhing mass of tentacles, where she's able to use the contraption she's built to stun it.
Thank you to Kevin the bus driver for location intel.
See, always ask a bus driver.
Yeah, the show is really gonna gloss over how the bus driver knew, isn't it? Is there a reason that a bus driver would be more likely to know that a roof somewhere has a glowing mass of tentacles on it than any other random person?
He does realize that buses go everywhere, right? So a lot of inferences Jay makes is that it only could have happened this way, or there was only one thing that like the implication here that Jay's making is that the bus guy was the only one who noticed. No, I imagine that a lot of people would have noticed, namely all the people on the bus that he was driving around. Because the implication as to why the bus driver was able to find it is because he goes everywhere. He's on a bus. He drives around the whole city, so he's very likely to see things that people who just stay in one area aren't. The implication is that nobody else sees it, but that's not the case, because clearly if he's seen it, a lot of other people saw it too, which would mean that he... It's a stupid argument, this one. This one's just... It's poor faith. I don't know why, because there's plenty of other things you could nitpick this episode for. I don't know why he's chosen this one of all the ones he could have done.
Would be, you end up asking some strange questions in my line of work. You know, honestly, there's no two concepts that are less closely linked in my mind than bus drivers and roof knowledge. Let's be honest, it's not more likely for Kevin to have found this out than it is for any other random person. What
it is.
The story then is that it was progressed by the coincidence of someone that Graham had already asked just happening into the information they need. Contrivance happening occasionally is whatever. I mean, coincidences do happen in real life. This, however, appears to be a pattern that we can see starting to form of the plot being progressed mainly by extremely unlikely events. After examining the tentacles, the Doctor concludes that this is actually some sort of probe, gathering information. She then discovers that the information it's been gathering is on the guy they met in the train.
Which one of you shall I kill first?
Oh fuck yeah, it's Onion Boy! First things first, the most pressing question the Doctor feels she has to ask him is why he took a tooth from the guy he killed.
Why take a tooth from the victim?
Yeah, I do think it's weird why that was the first thing that she asked. Although, I guess to play devil's advocate, like, you could make the argument that she thought she had everything else figured out, so it was basically just like, oh, I wonder what this is. But still, I don't think she has actually got everything figured out. This one to do this weird reveal.
Glues them to his face. Okay. Instead of a spaceman who emerged from a giant onion and glues teeth to his face, I would be more interested in seeing a spaceman who emerged from a giant tooth and glues onions to his face. The Doctor is standing in between him and his tentacles, so he explains his whole plan, including weaknesses and pitfalls.
Our leaders randomly designate a selected human. I am sent here. No weapons, no assistance.
You didn't have to tell her that.
Yeah, he didn't have to tell her any of that. He's... Like, the whole you didn't have to tell her that over-explaining their plan is a stupid complaint, I reckon, in this one. Like, it's not completely infatuated without logic, but, like, he has, like, he's saying, it's like, I'm sent here, because think of it the other way. If he didn't say that, the Doctor would have just asked. And then if he refused to answer, the doctor would know that, he's on his own. If he lied about the answer, said, I'm sent here, but we also get, fucking orbital bombardment if we need it, that's obvious. That's going to be pretty obvious as a lie. Like, if he has weapons, then why hasn't he done the thing already? If he doesn't have weapons, he's not any harder to stop. It's just a weird thing to nitpick, personally. Like, you could, but like, of all the things in this episode you could point out, that's the one you're going with.
Locate and obtain the trophy.
I'm gonna start eating, by the way.
When it's victorious.
It turns out that what he's doing is a form of ritual hunting. A random human is designated and he has to capture and return home with them. By doing this, he proves that he's worthy to rise up through the ranks of his society. After the doctor tells him to maybe not do that, he teleports away by doing a cool pose, and uses the information he's now collected from his tentacles to go and find his target. And in case you're wondering, the characters react by asking simple questions so the doctor can explain the answers to the audience.
Where have you gone? To hunt.
On who?
Isn't it obvious?
Now, as much as I would like to continue the rest of the video calling him Onion Boy and calling his people the Onion People, I am now going to take this time out to let you know that he is called Zemshar and his people are called the Stenza. So the Doctor and Co are able to track down Zemshar's target because they've already met him, have his name, and look him up. That's not a coincidence! Hooray!
Okay, he's gonna play pretty stupid.
Well, I mean, but them meeting him in the first place was a major coincidence, and this is just a result of that, so...
No, I would argue it's not a major coincidence, because here's my rationale. So if we go with the interpretation that the TARDIS dropped the Doctor there, she was always going to encounter those aliens and that dude anyway, no matter what. If Grace and Graham weren't on that train, like if it was any other two passengers, they would have then had the DNA bombs, and the Doctor would have then had to ally with them. So the only coincidence, contrivance, whatever that you could argue out of this is that it's Grace, Graham, Yaz, and Ryan specifically, as opposed to any other person. Because if anybody else was there on that train, or even if nobody else was there, the Doctor would have still bumped in to this man who was the target and would have still taken whoever else had DNA bombs. The only difference is maybe it would have been slightly harder to find some because she'd have to ask people. But also, it's the Doctor. She can go around asking people. Like, it's not hard to find people who can look at things, who know where roofs are. Like, it's very minimal would have to change to write these characters out of the plot, which is both a positive and a negative in this specific case. It's a positive because it specifically goes against what he's saying here. It's a negative because that's bad. It is bad that the plot could exist without four of the characters in it.
The recall from the pod you travelled in, I took it out. Without this, you can't get home.
Which is why I left it completely unattended in a garret. At the construction site the target works in, the Doctor confronts Zemshar. No! I'm not going to call him Tim Shaw! Deliberately getting someone's name wrong is not funny! Anyway, so Onion Boy explains what he does with the human trophies he captures.
Your human trophies. What do you do with them?
They're held in stasis in our trophy chambers on the cusp between life and death.
Left to rot? How completely obscene.
And this
realizing there is a delay in the capture, but I can't really do anything about that. So
it's
sorry.
relevant to anything I'm talking about right now, so I'm really not sure why I'm bringing it up.
If I don't stop you, your people will keep doing this.
Yeah, but if you
that's
stop
a fucky line of dialogue.
Anyway,
They're just
just
stopping him.
Stopping, not his people. This line confuses me.
Give me the circuit.
Okay, so here he talk. I'm going to skip over because everything he says here is all good. He just talks about the twist, where like actually the bombs aren't in, my friends, because I disabled them with the sonic screwdriver off camera. Which and he says it's good, and I agree. So I'm just going to skip over it. I'm probably going to skip over the next part as well. that being him jumping off the roof or jumping off the crane and teleporting away, and Grace jumping off the crane and dying.
But in the video we opened with, Ryan's not talking about the Doctor. He's giving a eulogy for his recently departed grandmother.
2 dislikes.
This is another decent twist that
I know that's a joke, but also I just want to point out people would dislike that because it could be him exploiting his grandma's death for views or something.
adequately recontextualizes previous events we've already seen. So props there. After we get a funeral scene for Grace, the Doctor picks out her new outfit. Goddamn, low resolution Jodie in my preview is
a very bad outfit.
Before requesting the help of the survivors. Remember how her TARDIS dematerialized to a random place for reasons? Well, she's managed to locate it, and she wants help operating a teleporter that she's building to go and get to it. She activates the teleporter, and it took them all. What a twist.
Yeah, now what? Won't be expecting that.
So that's the cliffhanger that episode 1, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, ends with. And I'm gonna say it, it's not very good. The episode, I mean. The cliffhanger is fine, and quite suspenseful. I guess we'll just have to see how it resolves. Will we get
not very well.
Satisfying subversion of expectations, where elements we've already seen come together to form a solution? Will we get a clever answer to the problem? Or will it be resolved by extreme coincidence being the most significant driving force behind the plot is definitely an issue in this story. Coincidence isn't an inherently bad thing, but it does have a lot of pitfalls associated with it when it's included in writing.
This is something that I wholeheartedly
generally being used as a cheap shortcut.
Everything here is just explaining stuff that I agree with, I think, for the most part, because he's talking generally as opposed to any specific thing I want to call out. Because a lot of his general criticisms are absolutely correct. But here, I'm just going to skip over it just because I would rather just get on to things that are wrong so I can be done with this, still have time to enjoy my day. It's a fairly long sequence. I think the Ghost Monument, here we go.
To episode 2, The Ghost Monument.
Written by Christian.
Which picks up from where we left off.
No, ads.
If you're a college student like me, especially, you need Grammarly in your life. Grammarly is a digital writing assistant, and it's super easy to download.
You absolutely do not need Grammarly. Don't download Grammarly. It's bad. It's garbage. Actually one of the worst things of all time.
Really big, hugely mind-bogglingly big. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the street to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a wholly remarkable book. In the entry in which it talks about dying of asphyxiation after being thrown out of a spaceship, it goes on to say that what with space being the size it is, the chances of being picked up by another craft are 2 to the power of 260,199 to 1 against.
Will we get some satisfying subversion of expectations where elements we've already seen come together to form a solution? Will we get a clever answer to the problem, or will it be resolved by... Well, okay, the Doctor said they're trying to go to the planet.
Yeah, the thing here is that he claims it's a coincidence. I would argue coincidence is the wrong word, or contrivance. I would argue that's the wrong word that he's using here, or it's the wrong criticism. Because if you think about it, so the TARDIS teleported to here. This is the planet the TARDIS is on. Because the TARDIS is here, the natives call it the Ghost Monument, and because the Ghost Monument is here, that's where they decide. That's what the races that are doing this episode have decided that the race is going to be. It's like, oh, there's the Ghost Monument here. What a cool place to finish. We'll do that. That is the reason why the race finishes here, which is why the ships are here, which is why the Doctor and the fam get picked up by the ships. It's cause and effect. It's flimsy cause and effect, but it's still cause and effect. The issue is, we had no way of knowing any of this before it became plot relevant. So they've basically just pulled this excuse out of their ass. It's not contrivance, but it is still shit because they didn't set it up.
Planet where the TARDIS is.
Just send me to the planet where my ship seems to have ended up.
And I don't want to be too quick to reach my conclusion.
Mustn't prejudge.
Maybe they're near that planet now, and the planet itself is a heavily trafficked area by starships, making this still extremely unlikely, but not so cosmically improbable that the human brain can't even begin to comprehend how low the chance was. Maybe when we learn more about the place they've arrived in, that'll make it better. So what do we learn about the...
He's mostly just saying that. Honestly, I'm incredibly tempted to skip this entire segment because there's only one thing in here that I disagree with. So I'm going to skip to try and find that one part because there's nothing I'm going to be able to add other than just reiterating what he's saying, which I don't want to do because you can just watch his video for that. But there is one specific scene that I remember seeing that I want to watch, and then I'll just finish skipping this segment.
The race.
Last ever rally of the 12 galaxies.
A race?
4,000 entered, 2 are left.
What's the prize?
Enough to provide a lifetime of comfort on a safe world.
Are we eligible too?
No.
Okay, I can work with this. This is a very interesting...
He says the oh, sorry. He says the characterization that we're supposed to be getting from this scene is that Ryan is incredibly self-interested. I would argue that it's different from what we're supposed to be getting. We're supposed to be getting that he wants to live away from Graham. He doesn't want to be with Graham anymore. But then we also find out later on that he's already succeeded that. Because he feels held back by his disability, so he wants money to try and change the way he's held back, so he's no longer held back. Because while he may be being held back by his disability, like Jay points out later in his video, he's now being pushed forward by being rich. That was what he was asking. I do think it was incredibly fucking weird to have that ask him before he knew he could get home. But it is entirely possible that Chris Chibnall thought, I was like, oh, the prize is tons of money. I can buy a taxi with tons of money. Like, that's, that could have been what he was going for as well. It's not good, but it's not as abysmal as he says it is. So I'm just going to skip the rest of this segment as well, because everything up until the end, I completely agree with. There's one point at which when they talk about the moral failings of the episode, when they say, I may have skipped past it.
It's greatly increasing the risk to him. We could have had...
Alright, so yeah, he's just talking about the scene here. I'm just going to skip back a bit so we can play this again, because he says some pretty iffy things here. Oh, sorry, he says a pretty iffy thing here that I disagree with. If I can get it where it's supposed to be.
The gun itself causes no issues here. In fact, considering when the robots arrive, they arrive on the opposite side of the room to where Ryan just came in from, it's possible that Ryan didn't actually make the situation arrive on the opposite side. But if it had one,
Now do you see why I don't like guns?
Which just makes you wonder, okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna let this play.
Not simply picking up a gun. He's holding a gun, don't get me wrong. This person appalls violence to a very high degree, but that's just one of many principles they hold, and sometimes in very difficult situations, other principles will take priority. Now, I'm not going to pretend that a character's moral principles aren't at liberty to change over the course of like several thousand years, but here's the thing. The moral situation we've just been presented with fails on its own merits, which is why I find a comparison to what it's clearly been poorly translated from useful. It doesn't play out like a new or changed moral principle, it plays out like a dumbed down version of the old one that completely misses the point. First of all, these are robots, unthinking and unfeeling. It's absolutely fine to destroy them with no moral repercussions, because they're not people or creatures or beings. Causing harm to the robots is not the moral issue here. Instead, the idea that we're presented with is that guns are simply less effective than other methods of destruction. Ryan quickly and efficiently shoots the robots in the head, and after it doesn't work, the doctor tells him,
Now do you see why I don't like guns?
which just makes you wonder, okay, so what if it had worked? The gun itself causes no issues here. In fact, considering when the robots arrive, they arrive in the opposite.
For context, Jodie says, made it worse, and then Ryan flies just a little bit, yeah, and then
side of the room to where Ryan just came in from. It's possible that Ryan didn't actually make the situation any worse at all. The only way he could have made it worse is if they'd seen him and followed him back in, and the fact they're coming.
So I think it's pretty obvious here what Jay's missing, and that's that the robots didn't know where he was hiding, or else they would have been there already. But because they watched him run into the place, it was like, oh, he's in there. Okay, now we'll go hunt him down. That, I think, is the clear implication of the scene. I don't know why he's missed that. I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't want to assume it's on purpose. It is my job to give the benefit of the doubt to things I agree or disagree with. So,
from a different place means that's clearly not what happened.
Made it worse.
Just a little bit, yeah.
No. At least not in any way
yes,
to actually communicate.
in a way that is very clearly communicated to
is
the
the
viewer.
doctor telling Ryan that taking on these robots in a gun battle is an unnecessary risk. Don't endanger
Yes,
yourself.
this is a much better interpretation of the scene. He goes over, watch the video. I am going to quickly just fast forward a bit, but then also I've just realized something that I want to cover. So I'm going to be right back. And we're back. All right, awesome. So yeah, I have skipped a little bit ahead, but the important part is going.
That was a weird line. I wonder if it'll be relevant 2 seasons from now. Man, you've got a lot of video left before you hear about the payoff to that one. As the sun rises, the group reaches the site of the Ghost Monument, only to find that the TARDIS isn't there. And now, the assumption here is pretty obvious, right? You've probably already stumbled across it yourself.
Looks like the engines are stuck in a loop, phasing in and out of time and space.
There's a very...
With this point here, he was just so close. So close. But he literally plays the clip too. They have a line of dialogue explicitly explaining away this criticism that he has. I'll let it play.
Strong chance they've just arrived at it before it reappears.
Which they have.
Obviously.
It's not here. I don't understand.
What?
Phasing in and out of time and space.
The I don't understand line is a bit fucky, but then also the we did all this for nothing is the main part of the scene. I think that I don't understand is just Chris throwing in, it's like, oh, reaction, I guess. But the actual...
I don't understand. We did all this for nothing.
I'm sorry. Failed you. I promised you, and I let you down.
And not to mention, you're the one who got them into this mess. Like,
Yeah,
you might
they
want to
never mentioned
apologize
that.
for that
Weird.
as well. Just to suggest.
We can wait, can't we?
No, we'll be dead within one rotation.
Exactly. That is. We can wait, can't we? No, we'll be dead within one rotation. She doesn't think it's going to arrive today. In fact, she's pretty sure it's not going to. And so they're like, oh shit, I guess we didn't make it. We're going to die. That is the whole reason why it's, I don't know how he watched this thing. He played the clip and he didn't realize that counted his entire argument.
Now, I'm gonna say it.
We did all this for nothing.
This is out of character, but I'll get to that. The TARDIS reappears because, like, yeah, the gang enters the TARDIS and the Doctor takes off with the promise of taking.
Alright, the rest is just standard. This whole thing's on characterization. You know what's funny about this? Because I've watched this, like, I want to say 8 times. The first 2 times are just because it's a good video, and then I've watched it, coming up with counters to something. I don't think there's a single thing in this section that he explicitly gets wrong. And I'm getting a bit tired anyway. I'm not going to painstakingly comb through this entire thing, just nodding along to everything, because I'm not going to be able to add anything. And that's not transformative. So I shouldn't do that. And also, I don't want to do that, because you can just watch this video on your own. If you're curious in what he says, I've linked the video in the description, as well as his channel. Please go subscribe to him, he's amazing. But also, like, if you want to see what he says, go watch what he says. I'm not going to play it here, because I have dignity of any sort. Figuring out the fan, Demons of the Punjab is genius. He says that Demons of the Punjab is bad. I agree. There's nothing good in there. Like, everything he says is correct. Comparisons and characterization, yeah. There's an intermission here where he just makes a joke about things. In the Battle of Ranskor of Kolos, I think here is where I want to start.
And now, before we move on, a brief intermission. Did you know you can purchase the 8th Doctor Paul?
Okay, another ad.
Make sure you send your gifts by December 7 to ensure they arrive
I should be getting
in
ad
time for
revenue for
Christmas
these guys.
Day.
I feel like I should get all 3 cents out of that.
Dr. Paul McGann only costs Amazon
Yeah, this is him just making jokes about
dieting. To say about Paul McGann, is he durable? Is he easy to use? What did I mention? Robert has rated Paul out of 10. Amazon products are rated out of only be used. How could we give an overview of Series 11 without talking about its finale? I mean, I'm sure if you're a fan of the series, you'd like me to.
I'm not a fan of the series, but I still want to.
Someone appears out of thin air on a strange planet. Now brace yourselves, because I think this might be the single largest plot contrivance I have ever seen. A plot
it is. It's for sure.
An issue because it lowers the stakes. Let's say, for example, your main characters have been locked up in a prison cell and they can't save the day unless they escape. If the person guarding them then suddenly has a brain aneurysm and dies, dropping the keys to the prison through the bars of the cell, that's not a plot hole. It could.
Yeah, this whole thing is really stupid. Tim Shaw, basically, he gets teleported to a random spot in the universe, and the place that he gets teleported to is right next to 2 completely unique god beings who are on the lookout for a god that looks exactly like he does. It is the worst possible contrivance. It's just, it's bad. Honestly, it's bad. It is bad. I don't know what Chris is thinking, but yeah, this whole thing here, he says about that, I agree with. I think here might be where the actual important thing starts happening.
Next to these two folks. Here's a little bit of information we end up learning about these two over the course of the episode.
Oh, hang on. I'm trying to find the clip where he starts talking about the dude, like the actual character development of the villains in this. And he's still talking about yeah, my goodness. Hold on. Terribly sorry. Everything he says in this part that I'm skipping over, I agree with. This is a bad episode. Graham's character arc is just stapled on. It's not good. It's bad. Ransker of Colas is a fun thing to say though. That's something I can say as a positive for it. If I can find, this might be it.
Wow, should we aim at the targets? No. Like, they just spend a full 5 seconds unloading into each other and not one of them aims down. The doctor confronts one of the Ucks, Antonio, in a hallway, and Onion Boy sees her and insists that Antonio brings her to him.
Your creator. Let him see my face.
How can he know you?
Seems like they're setting something up with that.
The creator is the cornerstone.
You're the first to see him.
We are the blessed generation.
Your words are certain. Your eyes are full of doubt.
Oh, okay, so she's supposed to be doubtful of the religion. I wonder why that is.
How can you know him?
Wait, is that it? The creator knows someone?
So this is an issue that I described earlier, where he looks at so he takes a scene that sets something up, and then complains that the thing that the setting up wasn't set up before this scene. So he complains. So first of all, the complaint he makes is incorrect. She's not doubtful of the religion. She's doubtful that Onion Boy is the guy behind the religion. That's the whole point of this. It's sort of like, because he makes several complaints like, oh, how was she able to have her faith shaken in a religion so hard? She wasn't. It's almost as if like somebody came today and pretended to be Jesus or something and convinced a bunch of people to follow him, and then you were able to prove that this person wasn't Jesus. You're not then proving that Christianity isn't real, because that's what everything else in the world has done. But this alone wouldn't be what. It's not like, oh, hey, this guy wasn't Jesus, therefore Jesus isn't real. That's not what they're going for, because that would be incredibly stupid. I don't even think Chris Chibnall's that stupid. But that seems to be what Jay is attributing to them, which is incorrect. Number two, she's doubtful of the religion because the creator knows someone, and then in that scene, she says two things. First of all, she says the thing explicitly that he's complaining about. That is the thing that matters. That's like, this is the setup before it becomes plot relevant. I like this part. On top of that, she repeatedly says, we are the first, we are the blessed, or whatever, the similar stuff to that. That is her specifically talking about, like, oh, hey, we're the first person to see this person. And it turns out, no, we're not. Hang on, but we're supposed to be the first person. The fact that we aren't the first person might make me think that this guy isn't who he says he is. He might not be my god, because my god only knows us and has not yet made himself visible. That is the whole point. His argument here is incredibly flimsy, and it's based on two really faulty premises, both of which are explained away in the clip that he played. This is probably one of his few arguments that I would genuinely say is bad and is made in bad faith, as opposed to a misinterpretation or just a lack of explanation or something like that. This is one of his first ones where it's explicitly incorrect and it's at the detriment of his video. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes he makes in the thing, but it's also just one of the arcs of one of the side villains in one of the episodes. So that's a pretty good track record.
There's nothing that's been set up about their religion that this would contradict. It's not.
This is the setup. There's nothing that's been set up before the setup. Wow, shock of all shocks, the one time that Andinia actually gets to, show doubt. She shows doubt. It's I don't know how he didn't think of this when he was when he wrote the line. Like, there's nothing that's been set up before this. Did it not occur to him that this, like, if they'd set it up, like in the third scene or whatever, just in the third scene ever, would he then complain that it wasn't set up earlier? Because you could make this argument for anything. You could argue, like, in the very first scene, before she's even given reason to doubt, she doubts. Would he then complain that it wasn't set up in the prior episode? Like, you could make this argument for anything. Oh, why wasn't it set up that Hawkeye wasn't going to appear in Avengers Infinity War? They should have set that up in the prior movie. Or why wasn't it set up that I can't think of any fucking examples. In the Batman, why wasn't it set up that that the Penguin doesn't know anything? That I feel like they should have set that up beforehand. No, that is the scene where they're setting up those things. So they shouldn't set them up beforehand, or else, what's the point of having any setup whatsoever? There needs, like, it's just stupid.
Not like their true creator isn't allowed to know people.
Except it is. That's what the episode is explicitly saying. I think I spent more time digging into this one specific thing than I have going into the rest of the actual thing, but that's also credit to him, because this is the thing that he gets the most wrong. I mean, that's pretty good. If this is the thing you get the most wrong, I mean, there are a lot worse things that you could have said. Like, you could have had some incredibly bad takes here, and this is the extent of the bad, which is, incredibly fortunate.
Why does this make her doubtful all of a sudden? It's entirely unclear. Bonus points for the fact that the way it's communicated to the audience that she is doubtful
this part
of
I
her
agree with.
religion is the Doctor looks at her and says, "You look pretty doubtful of your religion."
Your eyes are full of doubt.
And she says, "Yes, I am, for this reason."
How can you know him?
Now that's what I call an
Yeah, no,
I know you're probably really
that's not
invested
subtle.
in this storyline, but sorry, I am about to spoil it. The plot relies on her changing her mind at a climactic moment, but the story doesn't consider the source of her doubt worth setting up at all, really.
This is the setup!
Fleshed out. Anyway, let's check up on Yaz and
I agree, it's not heavily fleshed out, but this is very clearly the setup. This is the set. I don't know why I'm up.
Find a load
He's
of
just moved on.
cryopod trophy cases where they keep their suspended victims. The Doctor confronts Onion Boy, where we get this information.
You corrupted my recall device.
Now you may have realized something. There's something you may have realized. Episode 2 of this series, The Ghost Monument, acted like a tour through the atrocities of the Stenza in what was explicitly set up for a later episode.
We had no choice but to obey. The Stenza.
This here that we're getting now is that episode. This is the...
So he complains here that the setup from episode 2 went nowhere. I agree. It sucks, however, I don't think it was intended to go nowhere. I think this was set up for the Timeless Children. The whole episode was set up for the Timeless Children. I think it was originally supposed to feature the full, like, stanza, like all of them. Like, instead of the Master leading the Cyber Masters. That's what I think it is. And then the next season came in as course correct. It's sort of like, oh yeah, no, everyone hated that, so let's, not do something similar. Which, that's not an irrational thing to do. But then the thing after that is that I think this was supposed to be set up for that potential episode, and then because of the way the show was course corrected, that episode never ended up coming to light. So all that setup became meaningless. That's what I think it was. As a current, his criticism completely makes sense. However, I don't know. This is me making a guess. I want to make it extremely clear. I'm not some insider source. I didn't write the episode. This is just seeming. This is what I think Chris might have been going for, but I don't know for certain. That's what's important.
Set up in that episode ends up being relevant at all. The sniper bot.
Yeah, sniper bots come back, which is nice, I guess. It's entirely possible that Chris wrote that entire episode just to bring those sniper bots back. But, you know, I'm not putting out of the realm of possibility. Now he then makes some decision about moral botchery, which I agree is bad. He then talks about theme, which I agree is like the way he Jay does it well. The Doctor's always right. Everything he says here, I agree with, because she keeps making morally bad calls and then being framed in the right. The Doctor being out of character, I agree with. I don't think he says anything specifically. You know, an arc was attempted. This was him talking about the arc that was stapled onto her, which wasn't good. Like not the video section. The video section, or all these video sections have been great. But yeah, I think the arc is bad. Character assassinated. It's just him. I don't care. This is the person finishing off the segment. What's this one? Series 12. I'm looking through this. I don't think from memory, there's nothing in here that I specifically want to comment on. I mean, the whole the master being a Nazi for a bit, I kind of want to mention, so I'm going to. There's a whole thing where they casted an Indian actor to play the Doctor, or not the Doctor, to play the Master, which isn't a problem at all. However, they also made one of the things that the Master does is disguise himself as a Nazi, which alone is a little odd, but is made even worse by the fact that he's one of the people that the Nazis would have not liked, and he's somehow infiltrated as a Nazi general. The thing they write into the actual story is that he's wearing a facial perception filter. They've added something that the Doctor then uses to be a bad person, because she, disables it to let the Nazis know that, hey, this guy you already don't like, he's Indian, so treat him worse because you're racist. It could have functioned if they'd reflected on it the same way that they did a lot with Tenet. Where it's sort of like, oh shit, this guy's doing a really bad thing, and we're going to acknowledge that it's bad. That could have worked, but if they were so insistent on disguising this guy as a Nazi, literally they introduced a plot point in such a way. So they start off with oh hey, he's actually white. Like, how does the facial perception filter work? Does it literally just change his skin color? Is that it? Because, like, how do they how? Because these guys who are normal humans, well, normal, evil humans from like the 1940s, and they see somebody basically. It's like, oh hey, this person that we already knew has changed their race. How do they know that that's them? Like he, it, the whole episode is bad, but every single thing about this. There was an article that I read that was like, oh hey, the fact that he's calling out that the doctor does a racist or does a thing that hurts somebody because racist is bad. There's another calling out Jay's like video and saying it's like actually Indians were treated only kind of poorly by the Nazis, not as bad as Jews. So that makes everything in that episode okay. It's a bad show. It is a bad show. Everything he says here, I completely agree with. So I think I'm gonna skip. I might want to do the Timeless Children. I'm gonna skip to the Timeless Children. We're 4 hours in. I don't even think I've been online for 4 hours. But basically, everything he says about the Doctor is absolutely 100% correct. And because I remember when I was watching this recently to figure out what arguments I wanted to use, the one I genuinely couldn't find any flaws in his complaints about the Doctor that were significant enough that I'm going to comb through there to find. So I will start playing this momentarily. I do need to go quickly check on something. So I will be back. Hey, we're back. All right.
Episode called The Timeless Children is one of, if not the most controversial episode in all of Doctor Who history. It was written by Chris
So I'm just going to
Chibnall,
color the Timeless Children because I don't remember what he says about this.
building up to for the whole of series 12.
Point is,
Now,
it's
worth noting
a
that
bad
when you have
reveal.
a mystery, the way in which the answers to that mystery are revealed to the audience are just as important as what those answers themselves actually are. 2007's Blink probably wouldn't enjoy its fan favourite reputation if instead of the climactic scene where Sally sits down and finally has a conversation with the video recordings of the Doctor,
He said, I'm just going to skip this part because it's just him talking about the delivery was bad, which it was. Oh, there's a thing here I want to cover.
consciousness into the Matrix, where he spends 10 minutes explaining the new law with visuals.
There was an explorer. Her name was Tecteun, from a little regarded, sparsely populated planet called Gallifrey. Tecteun was the first of Gallifrey's indigenous race. The ship opened
Okay, just
space
yeah.
to explore the worlds and galaxies beyond her home.
Wait, hold on. The first
I'll
person to develop space travel was able to get to different galaxies. Okay, the Master.
No, I think the implication is she was the first person to develop space travel, and she was also the first person to visit galaxies beyond their own. I don't think it was supposed to be, oh, she developed space travel, and that allowed her to, like, that was, like, she was the first person to do this, which also resulted in this too. It was the two separate accomplishments that she had, both related to space. But I can understand that confusion. That's a pretty rational thing to be confused about. And since it's sped up, I can't really check.
Tells the Doctor that the Gallifreyan explorer Tecteun discovered on a distant planet a gateway, and beneath it a child. The timeless child. Tecteun adopted the child and took her back to Gallifrey with her. One day on Gallifrey, the child has a serious fall that most people wouldn't have survived, but the child regenerates and gets back up. This was the first...
Yeah, everything here is basically just saying what she's saying. Makes some funny jokes about incest. Reveals the Doctor as a timeless child. I really don't like, because the reason is because why? Like, what does this actually do? Nothing. This whole reveal, even before they get to the point where they say, oh, the Doctor doesn't actually care about it, doesn't mean anything. Like, it has zero effect. It's just like, hey, here's the thing we've been building up to. You did this thing before that had zero effect on anything, because that was millions of years ago, or billions rather. It's and then she breaks out of the Matrix by streaming her memories into it, which is stupid as shit. It's bad. It's bad. It's a bad episode, bad reveal. I am going to try. Her reaction. Honestly, this whole episode is just bad. So I'm gonna have a look at this one, just because maybe he says something bad. I'm hoping, but we don't know.
Currently, at time of recording, there exists one more episode after the Timeless Children. It's a New Year's Day special called Revolution of the Daleks, and it's embarrassingly bad. Highlights include the way the 13th Doctor defeats the Daleks.
Actually, I personally don't mind this episode. It's bad, but in the same way that I don't mind Transformers. It's just fun to watch. Although the first and third Transformers maybe also have decent plots as well, I guess. But this one, like, if you don't think about it, it's fun, I guess. But that's all you can extend to it. It's just like, it's not good. It's bad. The episode's bad, but I enjoyed watching it. Could have been significantly worse. It's free of anything just deplorable, but it also is free of anything actually good. There is one thing in this that Jay says that I'm remembering now, and that is that it's stupid that the Doctor calls Daleks to kill the so there are a bunch of human Dalek hybrids on Earth. To get rid of them, the Doctor calls more Daleks. This is a stupid plot point, but it's not as bad as Jay makes it feel like. Because what Chris is trying to get across here is that the Doctor's having a crisis because for some reason, He's like, oh, I don't know who I was, therefore I can't save anybody. Is bad. It's badly done, but that is the reason behind it. And you can kind of see the line of logic there from the writers, but also it's still stupid and it doesn't fit within the pre-established Doctor's character. So I don't know. It's bad episode. Bad episode. I would just let this play, but also I'm not a dick, so I think
Destroy you in the.
oh, she does moral botchery where she kills a TARDIS. I'm gonna let this
Definitely
play.
gets loads of people killed for no reason, really. Okay, you know what? I could go all day, but I really do think we need to move on now. Fine, you know what? Just one.
Oh, this is just him talking about Daleks apparently being blind.
There's also having to turn your brain off. Because
oh, what's this?
It's fine. The whole episode is written like this. And sure, there's turning your brain off to have some good fun, but then there's also having to turn your brain off. Because if you don't, you'll notice the things that happen on the screen and how conspicuously stupid they are.
That is a very good point that I didn't think of. I still think, because the episode, I think, doesn't actually serve any plot purpose, any story purpose. It's just supposed to be a fun sci-fi romp. And if you don't focus at all, it is. There are Daleks. That's cool. That's basically all it has going for it. But I still didn't mind the episode personally. It was bad, but it didn't have a lot going on in it. Like, it was probably, now I'm thinking about it, it's probably the same level of bad as The Timeless Children. This Timeless Children was supposed to be the payoff to a whole season of setup, whereas Revolution of the Daleks is just an extra episode tacked on because they could. So I think because it matters less, it seems like it's less bad to me. I don't know. This is just me speculating.
I know that with a lot of these episodes, but with particularly this one, I'll get a lot of people telling me that, oh, but it's fun. You know, it's just fun. Like, sure, you've pointed out some flaws in it, but who cares? Because it's fun. And you know what? That's a valid perspective to have, and I'm happy that you have fun watching it. But I don't think that that's really a counter to any of the criticisms that I'm making.
I'm not
because
intending
it
as
will still be fun and incredibly solidly written. The main
I'm not intending to say this as a counter to what he's saying. I'm saying, sure, it has all this thing, but I still enjoyed it anyway. There are absolutely valid criticisms to make, and it would be significantly better if those criticisms were fixed. But I don't mind it as it is. It could have been a lot worse.
thing in this episode, though, that I want to focus on before I move on to my conclusion is the character work that's done for the Doctor. The show seems to want to make it very clear that the Timeless Child reveal was a big deal and had a big effect on her. But the writers don't know how to do nuance or subtle characterization, so they just do the exact same character arc from the Timeless Children, but again, you know how in the last episode she concluded that her past doesn't define her?
It means I'm not who I thought I was.
Have you ever been limited by who you were before?
Now that does sound like me talking.
You know, when it was pointed out to her that that was something she already believed, that she knows who she is now, and that's what...
I mean, yeah. He's right. This is just talking about the arc. Again, which I don't disagree with. I do want to say I think this outfit looks shit, and they should have at least made the prison outfit look somewhat tolerable if they're going to put it on all of the promotional material. Oh, here we go. Hang on.
This would be like if when Grace died, Graham and the Doctor had this conversation.
Oh, hang on. No. This is him just speculating about season 3. And then he talks about how Mary Shelley is good, like the episode featuring her, which I agree. Yeah. And then the writer for that one is going to be a core writer going on, so I don't know. I think because everything he says in here is basically all positive. I don't really have any complaints from memory. And then he just says basically just says goodbye and shaves his head or something. So I think I'm going to call it there. I wholeheartedly agree with everything, with pretty much everything he says. He makes a lot of sense in this video. I didn't have a lot to disagree with. There's just a couple things in there, major things I wanted to yell at. And it was a lot more tiring than I thought it was going to be. So I think I'm just going to can it here. But yeah, for the most part, a solid video. Just has some flaws in it that I personally disagree with, or that could use elaboration on it. I get that there's a likely chance that he wanted to elaborate on those, but couldn't because it's 5 hours. He didn't. It would have been taking too long. So I imagine there's a lot here that he had to cut. So I think a lot of the problems could have been solved if there was just time. However, he does have a couple misinterpretations or makes bad faith arguments that I wholeheartedly disagree with. But however, that does not mean that I think the show is good or that Jay in total is wrong, because he's right. Overall, he's right. He gets the correct message across. But at the end of the day, it's just my job to play devil's advocate. You get it, because that's my job. I am gonna just really quickly do this. You can't stop me, bastard. Alright. So that's all I have today. So